Welcome, welcome, welcome. It's the Black Psychologist Podcast. We're back like we never left. We want to thank everyone for being here with us tonight. Could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us, and we appreciate that. I am one half of your humble and gracious host, Dr. Kyle Osborne. He is I, and I am him. And of course, as y'all know by now, I'm never here by myself. I'm here with the one and only. Hard work pays off, dreams come true, bad times don't last, but the good doctors do. Everyone, I give you Dr. Jason Coleman. What's going on, good brother?
Oh man, what's going on, my brother? Good to see you, man. What's going on with you?
Now, so brother, it's springtime, man. And, it's we in the middle of March. It's looking good out there.
Definitely, man. Listen, good weather today. It's crazy because I was talking to my students about, like I don't even know how to dress anymore, man. Like, like I come out ready for winter and it's 60, 70 degrees, man. The weather's been up and down. It's crazy.
It's wild, isn't it? I think one
Yeah.
week we beginning of one week we had snow, and then it was like 70 degrees in about a weekend.
Yeah, man. Yeah,
Wow.
man.
You
I
know?
don't know if that's signs of things to come or not, but it's difficult to deal with at the least, man.
Absolutely. I see you got that apparel on. Go ahead and tell them where you from. Tell them what you rocking. Go ahead, good
I
brother.
mean, of course, always, trying to promote positive mental health. Definitely prioritize mental health in terms of promoting that. Anybody who wants to support that, you can find that, at shopmentalhealthclothing.com. And again, appreciate all the support we've been getting so far and the feedback. So, I appreciate it, bro.
That's it. Go get it. Go get it. I mean, you order it right now. Listen, call now. Call right now. Dr. J will send you a personalized message
Nah, no, he won't.
saying thank you for your support. All right.
No, he won't.
That's what he's going to do. All right. So y'all better
No,
stop
he
playing around
won't.
and go do it. All right. So absolutely. All jokes aside, we definitely want to thank everybody for continuing to support us, continuing to like, continue to subscribe, continue in the comments. We love it. We love the feedback from everybody. So yeah, keep it coming. Keep in with any suggestion of topics, any ideas. We love the conversation. So we absolutely appreciate it. JD, anything else before we get started, bro?
Definitely just want to, thank everybody for taking the time to watch and listen. Really appreciate it. We're going to try to take it to the next level, 2022. So we just appreciate the support.
Yes, sir. All right, Jay. So it's getting ready to be movie season. Be heading into the spring, into the summer. It's gonna be movie season. All right. Question for you. Did you see Black Panther?
I saw it twice.
There you go. That's what I like to hear. All right. So the director of that movie, the great Ryan Coogler, all right, experienced some recent issues when he was trying to do his banking in Atlanta. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So while at a Bank of America in Atlanta, this happened, I think, at the end of January of this year. The director was mistaken, okay, quote unquote mistaken,
Mm-hmm.
all right, for a bank robber as he tried to take out money out of his own account at his own banking institution. All right, so this is how it went down. So Coogler says that he used his debit card in connection with the withdrawal slip. He entered in the PIN code and he also showed the bank clerk his ID card. He was wearing a hat, sunglasses, and a face mask. It's COVID, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of a thing. You kind of have to wear a mask. And he also wrote in the instructions for the bank teller on the back of the withdrawal slip, stating that he would like to withdraw his $12,000 in cash that he was withdrawing from his checking account. Now, on the note, he also said, please do the money count somewhere else. He would like to be discreet. Okay. So the bank teller, okay, per the police report, said that she received a notification on Coogler's account alerting her that the withdrawal request was a high-risk transaction, okay, which she called a red flag. So with that, so she said that also Coogler's attire was skeptical. Okay. Like I said, he had the shades on, he had a hat on, and he said those were all red flags that they look for in the bank. This is according to the clerk. Okay. All right. So she proceeded and she told her manager and she told a foreman. And so in her decision making, she decided to call and alert the police. Okay, so the police came. They entered the bank, and on even when they arrived, they noticed that there was a van or vehicle parked out front, right? And the driver, when they approached the driver of the driver said that, yeah, I'm here with Ryan Coogler. He's a film director, and he's like making a withdrawal from his account. And there was also a woman sitting in the car, who was his nurse. I think his kid's nurse or the baby's nurse, and she told the cop the same information. However, the police proceeded and arrested both the driver and the person in the car and then transferred them into a police car. All right. And so then they brought Coogler out of the bank in handcuffs. So they went to the bank, guns drawn on him, cuffed him, and then took him out and put him in a police car. All right. So after a while, things got squared away. Even though he had pleaded, with the cops and saying, "Listen, this is my money, it's my bank, so on and so forth." They asked him if he had ID. He said, "I have ID. I gave it to the teller." And then eventually, he's like, the police, they let him go, and they said, "Oh, this is a big misunderstanding, so on and so forth." The bank apologized. Jay, what do you make out of all this whole ordeal?
I mean, honestly, I just got more questions than like outrage, right? Number
Right.
one, for a bunch of reasons. One, like he gave his reaction to it a couple of times, right? And he said that Bank of America squared with him, right? So again, I'm not saying it wipes the whole slate clean, but I got a hard time being more outraged than him about the situation. But there's a lot of factors, right? And the reason why I say I got more questions than is number one, bank account would be a lot for me, right? But in the middle of a city like Atlanta, you know, it doesn't necessarily seem like it doesn't seem like an outstandingly crazy amount of money. You know what I mean? With the amount of money that's flowing through Atlanta, right? Now,
Right.
could be flagged up again. This is why I say I got more questions than answers, than outrage, because I don't even have a problem with being flagged a high risk transaction. I would have thought that kind of bringing the manager into the situation would have been the end of it, right? You would have thought that a manager would have been able to look at the transaction, especially look at the ID that the person has given, right? And kind of sort that situation out. I honestly, when you tell me that it was flagged high risk and then she kind of went and got her supervisor, I don't blame her anymore, right? I blame the manager, right? Because honestly, like this seems like a very normal transaction in a lot of different cities around, a lot of different cities and countries around the United States. You can't tell me that there's not people coming into banks every day getting cashier's checks for $20,000.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So,
So
again, I didn't even get.
from what
What'd
I
you say?
understood, from what I understand, what was reported is that the foreman and the manager wanted like to talk more with Ryan about the issue. You know what I mean, emphasized that she wanted to call the cops because she said it didn't sit right. Because she said she was pregnant and I have to protect my child and I have to protect my safety. So she was adamant about calling the cops. The clerk was.
It's who is lower on the hierarchy than the manager goes and get manager, and the manager is deferring to the clerk's decision,
That's what.
or the bank tellers. That sounds crazy, but again, if it proceeded that way, then we could see what resulted in the mess that resulted in. Because again, you have a person that's making decisions out of like fear of their own safety, right? And it's not even really logical decisions. So I didn't even get to the race aspect of it because I don't know how much that played a role. You know what I mean? Call accountability with the police when they need accountability, right? But if you call the police and say somebody's robbing the bank, when they get to the bank, they're not going to be doing interviews. They're going to secure the bank. It's like calling a SWAT call on somebody's house, right? When they're not doing nothing. The SWAT officer is going to come secure before they determine that it was a BS call, right? So I placed the largest amount of fault, with the bank employees on this one.
The interesting part, and when you mentioned race, is that the clerk was African American. She was an African American female. and the police officers, I believe, that arrived were also African American.
That's why you didn't even hear me bring it up.
Right.
Because again, there's so many other factors when we talk about just poor decision making. That's why I said I didn't even get to that because it wasn't about the mask, it wasn't about the note he wrote, it wasn't about any of that. Because I done walked into a bank with a hat on, mask on, everything. We all look like bank robbers. You know what I mean? But this was about, how the policy was executed poorly, if you ask me.
Yeah, I mean, it just seemed like, again, someone's making this decision out of fear. I mean, overall, this situation failed on a lot of different levels. It failed, at the bank clerk at her level. It failed on the managerial level. It failed at, the police authority level, because there were just a lot of things that wouldn't have made sense. Like at some point, I'm thinking that common sense or some type of rational thinking or problem solving thinking is going to kick in, right? Like if someone, I get like at certain banking institutions, like when you're withdrawing a certain amount, an alert or a high risk goes on. Sometimes it's over like 1,000, sometimes not 1,000, sometimes it's over like 10,000, sometimes it's 15,000, depending on the bank. However, if you're a bank clerk and you're suspecting that someone's robbing you, I'm not sure if they're going to give you their ID. Do you see what I mean? He was also using his bank card.
I agree with you 100%.
Right? Like he put in the bank code, like he put in his PIN code, right? So there's just a lot of things where some thinking, some analytical or some rational thinking skills has to come into play of like, okay, he's wearing a mask, but again, we're all wearing masks. Bank of America doesn't have like a policy about dress code where people can't come in wearing hoodies or wearing all these other different things. So at some point in time, I'm just thinking like, all right, when are we going to start like, bringing in some common sense thing here? You know what I mean?
I mean, and that's why I find it very hard to believe that this proceeded. It sounds like to me a bank teller that overreacted, right, out of fear, right? But I find it very hard to believe that you bring a manager, a foreman, and a bank teller, 3 people together, analyzing what they should do, and the bank teller says, "I think we might be being robbed. I got an ID, bank card, put in the number, and he filled out a withdrawal sheet." Somebody out of those 3 has to say, this doesn't feel like normal robbery, right?
Right.
So that's why I just say, comment to me, it seems much more of like, I'm in a situation I feel is uncomfortable. The button, call the police, and then the manager and every people I'm talking to them about what happened in the course of everything going on. But it does not seem like it kind of sequentially kind of proceeded in that order, because if so, then they have the worst manager ever. You know what I'm saying? But
yeah, it was definitely it was a failure on a lot of different fronts there. So my hat goes off to Mr. Coogler for handling the situation with such grace and professionalism, because I know a lot of other people wouldn't have. I'm not even sure I would have. But absolutely, this shouldn't have happened for a variety of different reasons. Some you just mentioned, and some I just mentioned. But Jay, we got a special guest that's coming through.
All right.
So we're about to let this person through. All right. Welcome into the
he called you?
He's coming in. He's coming in now. He's connecting. I think he's connecting this, ladies and gentlemen, welcome into the Black Psychologist Podcast. We have a guest. Okay, this gentleman goes by the motto, use your hands like a man, don't go out like a chump, never fuss, bench press so you stay pumped. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Eric Strassman. How are you, sir?
What's up? So this is Kyle, right?
Absolutely. How are you? Welcome.
And Jay, what's up?
Hey, what's up, man?
You're like, we want to
what's going on, man?
we want to welcome the baldest, whitest dude we can to our podcast.
Hey man, listen, anybody bald is good with me. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah,
I feel it,
Nah,
man. I feel it.
I'm
I like
outnumbered
the
now.
style, man. Definitely.
Hey E, take a minute, introduce yourself, let everybody know what you do, and is the fight still? Is there still a fight this Saturday?
Fights are actually Friday, and then we got
Yeah.
Ice who's fighting on Saturday, but Jay is fighting on Friday. That's huge.
So promote
Yeah,
yourself,
promote,
everybody
man.
know what your background
Absolutely.
is,
Sure.
and then
Yeah,
so
before we get into
promote,
the
go.
video.
So let's do it. So my name is Eric Strassman, or Coach Strassman. I've been coaching 11 years. I'm more of a performance coach, but with 11 years, just like you guys can imagine, maybe in your fields, I've learned a lot. So there's very few things I can't do. So I might be a performance guy, but I could be a weight loss guy. I could be, a rehab guy. But yeah, I mean, it's cool. I just think I'm a guy who likes to learn and likes to take new challenges. And one of the cool things about it is I've always been an athlete, and I think I've always thought it was cool to be able to like exercise and see what exercise can do for me. And what's cool is I found a way to make money doing it, and you can't always do that, So
Yeah,
I feel blessed. I'll talk a little bit just real quick. So on Friday, team-wise, Isaiah Wise, who is a local pro boxer from Strawberry Mansion, has a fight at the 2300 Arena, which is in South Philly. And I just can say that, being sort of a fan first and then having the opportunity to be a strength conditioning coach for him, his fights are fun. So anybody who's looking to get out on a Friday night and see a fight, I'd heavily recommend that in Philly. And in AC, we got Ice fighting. Who's Chris Brooker, who you kind of look at his fights in general. This is another guy who likes to bring it, and he's actually getting better. So it's cool to be able to say that there's two guys I'm working with. But Jason, you're going to be at Zay's fight on Friday?
I think so, man. I think I'm coming. I'm
like
I'm always there. But I think I'm coming.
I
Jay,
love it. I love
Jay
the
didn't even tell me about the fight. That's what I'm more heard about.
Well,
so
he told me he needs some time off from you a little bit. I haven't gotten to meet you yet, no, but he said you're a lot.
I can be. I'm intense.
I don't know. I made all that up, but it felt right.
This is how we roll. When you part of the bald mafia, this is how we are. We're intense.
So we're really intense. I also just got done a workout, and I walked back from the gym, so I feel pretty good. If some of the things I looked up hold true, it seems like my attention should be great for at least another hour, right? Exercise, they said at least 2 hours after, your focus is great. So, one of the many benefits of working out and exercise in general.
All right, so we're gonna have some questions for you. So it's good that you're on. So it's just in time too. We're about to go into the next article.
Absolutely. All right.
Cool.
So,
and one of the things I want to ask you guys, just in general too, just kind of right off the bat, if it's cool, if you don't mind me asking you guys a question.
go for it.
So in my field, I tend to find that the more I dig into the concept of somebody being successful in performance, I find that there is a huge mental component, right? And would you say that these two fields, in some cases, are highly linked?
See, now we're going into the article. See, now that this is what we're talking about. So I agree. First of all, I do. There's tons of research that connects exercise and mood. You know what I mean? Whether it be whether we're talking about mood disorders, whether we're talking about anxiety, or whether we're talking about exercise as a part of your treatment plan. So these are definitely that's one of the reasons why we wanted to have you on, because these are two areas that often overlap, right? Whether we talk about mental health, physical health, exercise, nutrition, all of those things.
And it's interesting, right? Like, one of the things I've talked about this, and I've had a chance to kind of go this direction for a while. There was a big period of time where when I first recognized that there was a major connection, it seemed like John Berardi, who was getting into nutrition coaching, he's the precision nutrition guy. He basically had recommended motivational interviewing. And he had essentially talked about this challenge that he found when it came down to working with his clients and trying to figure out why some were successful and some weren't. And I thought that was really one of the coolest things. Was here was a guy who was sort of a nutrition guy who was pitching to strength conditioning coaches and trainers, but he was essentially using one of the most important pieces of literature that probably someone early in their psychology, in their psychology development would want to learn, right?
But now that makes sense though, right? Especially
Totally
when you
does.
look at the history of like that technique, right? And what it started out being used for, and then the variety of different like conditions and behavioral kind of challenges, disorders that it's used to help people with, right?
Sure.
So those techniques are invaluable,
And I thought it was
and
interesting. I was going to say, like, I remember seeing some of the research, and like it was almost like they broke down all these reasons for why somebody might be successful or might be able to, finish a treatment plan or get what they want. And then there was almost a small portion where they went, yeah. And then some people just woke up one morning and decided that they were done quitting smoking. So like with that base, like it was just interesting how there were like treatment plans, and then there was just like that one person, like that strange individual. They're like, yeah, they just changed.
hey man,
It's
listen,
cool.
listen.
It's a real cool concept, like with the motivational interviewing aspect, because essentially what it does is like finding out where that person is at, right? So you as like even the trainer or us as even as clinicians is finding out like, all right, what are some of the things that are motivating what this client is trying to accomplish, right? So if it's like, all right, well, if this person is motivated by external factors, are they motivated by internal factors? Are they motivated by their family? Are they motivated? And it's good for you to know that kind of going in of where this person is, because, as a trainer or even as clinicians, we want to make sure that we're not doing more work than the person is, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, you know what I mean? So that's what I think is so cool. And like Jay was saying, it's like it's able to be expanded into like such other different areas of life, especially when you're talking about like your physical health or your mental health. Because now it's like, okay, we can use the certain things that this person is, right? We can see like where they're at and whatever they're motivated for, what's motivating them. And then we can utilize that, right? We can use that. And for some people, like you said, there are some people who just kind of maybe might wake up and be like, oh, you know what? I'm ready to done. I want to stop smoking. And then it might be the other person who's kind of at a certain point where they're not ready for that next level of training or that next level of treatment, because that's just not where they are right now. So
Sure.
like the MI, the motivational interviewing is like such a great concept that, like Jay mentioned, has been expanded in so many other different areas, but it's so helpful to have that information.
And that's sort of what blew me away was like, the reason why that course was so important to me was it let me understand that like he really got in this concept of like one step a day, right? And so that was it. It was like, take a multivitamin. Is it because a multivitamin's so great? Nah, I mean, multivitamins are cool. But if you can get someone to take a multivitamin and they agree that a multivitamin is important and they can make that step, it's amazing how it seems like they're more geared towards doing it. But also, after a while, once that becomes a habit, they don't really have to think about it. And I think when it comes down to it, energy, right? Like when you have to think, right, and you have to actually make it a thing, it costs you energy. But when it's like second nature, you're more ready for maybe another thing, right? Which is what's really kind of interesting about that style of approach. And I think why they've become so successful, because they make it simple and they don't ask for a lot. It's like small steps and just hope the person can sort of take the next one without doing what a lot of people do. Yo, E, I want a workout plan, and it's like, yo, E, I want a diet plan. And I'm like, so you want me to write up a whole thing for you to eat? And so what do you normally eat? Well, I don't even eat breakfast. So you want me
but
to
see,
eat breakfast?
that's again, right? That's where you're gonna get the common thread that's gonna run through your field, my field, and because that somebody could walk into my office and say, I don't want to feel like this anymore. Right now, I can have all the information, but again, like Kyle said, right? You don't want to be in a situation where you're doing more work than the person, right?
Sure.
Listen, I don't want to get off. We got to stay on track.
But no, he's good. That's good, Jay, because he mentioned something like really important, which I was gonna relate to it, right? Because in the article, as far as like for the benefits between exercise and like reducing anxiety, right? You mentioned like, okay, just doing it, like taking like a multivitamin or doing something just for the day, right? And one of the tips that they talk about in the article is some exercise is better than no exercise, right? Would you agree with that sentiment?
Like without a doubt. I I think there's just something to accomplishing a task in your day, no matter what it is. And if somebody feels like exercise is something important to them, just the fact that they can cross that off the list, that's the first thing. Just the idea to them, that's great. Now let's talk about this. When they exercise, something great happens inside of their body, especially if they exercise in a way that is worthwhile. Now, granted, that can be huge. And if we go into my world, we can go crazy with that. But maybe just sort of sticking right to it. If a person comes in and they are able to do, let's just say it's a little bit of strength training, and they're able to do something like few sets of squats, right? A few presses of some nature, right? And recruit multiple units. What's cool is inside the body has to like create these synergies, right? And I think from a body chemistry standpoint, it's huge what goes on. But I think it's also amazing because a person, for whatever reason afterwards, feels like they can do things better because they can. So they're actually strengthening these signals. And it's weird, but it's like exercise in a lot of ways is about creating the right kind of signaling in your body to basically finish up a task, accomplish a task. And I think that would be the reason why I think it's so important. So whether it be running, which is obviously it can be a complex thing. So running on a treadmill or something, or some kind of lifting, or even, look at something like yoga. Yoga is rather complex in nature also. So there's something to being able to get the body to work that way. And what it's looking like is it seems like it strengthens your brain, like actually can make your brain bigger and can protect those. What is it? Tell me if I'm wrong about this, but it's like, say, the hippocampus, I think, is one of the spots that seems like it gets larger, gets stronger. You can protect that, which tends to have some of the risks of dementia and that kind of thing. So it seems like a little bit of that, even just done for 15, 20 minutes in a day, if that's all you had on a regular basis, seems like that could really help you in the long term, assuming you want to be here for a while.
Let me ask you this, because I was going to save this question, but I'm going to ask you now. So I have a lot of people that I talk to that come in my office, and, most people are interested in exercising, right? But a lot of people have anxiety, right? About getting started, either because of their size or because of, their ability level or whatever, right? So what would you suggest in general? And I know this is like a crazy general question, but for people that are beginners, right, and want to start getting their body moving, right? What is like some easy exercises or easy things that they could do, to get themselves moving and kind of start practicing better, like more healthier habits?
I think it's a great question. So anxiety is kind of like the first thing I might look at there and say, if somebody's got anxiety, like if it's maybe just anxiety about the gym, then that could be deeper, right? Like it could go back down to like gym class was really horrible to them, right?
I'm just talking about the person that's just kind of anxious about, I'm going in the gym around these guys that are already lifting and that type of stuff.
Well, no, but I just kind of wanted to tack something. I'm just going with a part of logic, and I promise I'll get right to what you were asking me. And again, you can cut me off if I need to be a little bit more to the script. But the reason why I was going to say is this: some people come to you and they're like type A's and they're stressed out all the time. And the interesting thing about that is they'll come to a training session so revved up that a lot of times for me, I realize that they're carrying all this stress that already exists in their life and everything else. And it's funny, they're asking to do a stress-inducing activity, right? Training is stress. So the interesting thing at first is I love the idea of somebody being willing to do, say, 5 minutes of deep diaphragmatic breathing first, right? And my reasoning on this is, if I can get somebody to actually do the diaphragmatic breathing and relax and get into a more parasympathetic state, the interesting thing is they'll be better for a session. Now, let's say we get somebody who actually is in a parasympathetic state, but actually just goes, dude, the gym's a scary place to go into, and I don't feel like I know as much as everybody else, and I don't feel comfortable. I'd ask for two things. One, I always think the first thing you probably should consider doing is actually considering hiring a professional, just because there's something about somebody who knows what they're doing, guiding you through it, where you feel like you're in good hands. The anxiety is gone because that person is actually making the choices. I mean, honestly, it would kind of be like, in a way, like when somebody wants to come in and work out by themselves, it would be like if I told you that I was going through depression, but I went through YouTube and I did a bunch of cool self-help, listened to a couple of self-help videos, and then I paid attention to psychologists who went on there, and I think I'm fixed. In a weird way, it's like,
Right.
I might be able to help myself, but there's probably something that the eye of a professional could help with. Now, what I will answer the question with is, I want to go back to the idea of, if you're going to the gym, what are you doing? What do you feel comfortable with? What do you gravitate to? Because if you get somebody, for instance, who goes into a gym and they feel like being in the gym is about, say, working out, maybe like, I would say that there are a couple of exercises that I think in there that are kind of hard to mess up. But I would argue this. If I got somebody on a machine, we would go back into the isolating thing, which I don't think forces us to recruit at a high enough level. So in a weird way, the effects of the exercise wouldn't be as great. But if just getting into the gym and putting your gym clothes on and coming into the gym and actually like making it there and then feeling like you did something was important, I could see maybe going sort of machine to machine if you were brand new. Walking on a treadmill is pretty simple. The elliptical is pretty easy to kind of get through. I think those are easy ones. If we're getting into some strength training, I would say that being able to do a body weight squat, being able to do a plank, those would be two things I would look at. Because if you know how to do those two things, there's a lot of pieces that we can put on top of that. So I would say like a plank, being able to hold a plank, that's the root of doing a push-up, really, right? And one of the reasons why people are afraid of like having, say, old people, you know, which I like sometimes say 40 isn't over. Sometimes these articles to make it seem like you're 40, you shouldn't do push-ups, right?
Nah, man, come on, man.
Yeah,
Well, no,
right.
I know a physical therapist who wrote
Kyle,
that article.
Kyle,
and
how many push-ups can you do, man?
You want me
What
to
you telling me?
You want me to be modest, or you want me to
No,
show
Eric,
off?
Eric, I know you can do 1,000. I'm not asking you anything about push-ups. Kyle, how many push-ups can you do?
I can do about 100 on demand.
All right.
Yeah, I mean,
All right, I
Yeah.
feel you.
I thought he was going to tell you I could do 1 to 100, like my buddy used to, try to get you to bet on it. And then as soon as he would get down, 1 to 200. And then as soon as he'd make the bet, he'd get down there, he'd win, and he'd knock one out. He's like, I told you I could do 1 to 200.
There it is.
Listen, man. Listen, you know, we come from that era, so you got to be able to knock out them push-ups to 20, 25 clips, you know?
At the very least.
I think so. And you know, here's the interesting thing. The push-up is, again, it's a plank that allows you to move around it. And I think it's a great exercise for people to do. The difference is some people have a tendency to be kind of rounded. So there's some kind of things that as a coach, I look at and I want to make sure that they have range of motion. And that's maybe the biggest thing I could say. For you guys, the same way I believe that you guys feel like it's so important for that person to come to you initially and be able to communicate with you, and for you guys to actually put together a plan, I'm sure you have an assessment process of some nature that allows you to understand where they are. I mean, I feel like from hearing you guys, you have something. For me as a coach, it's the same thing. I get some people that say the strange thing to me. They say, I'm gonna come see you one of these days. I just got to get in shape first.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wait, hold on.
Yeah.
So
I would be that guy.
And I would look at you and I'd say, listen, professional, sir, I totally understand where you're coming from. The difference is if you can get you more prepared for what I want to do with you than I can, I shouldn't be in a job.
Right.
And that's it. And someone then tells me, yeah, but I just got to get in that state. I said, okay, we got to get you in the state of mind. I'm all right with that. Let's figure out what we need to do to make you believe you're ready to sort of hit that switch, right? And that's kind of the key to it, is getting somebody to feel like it's time. And maybe that goes back to, you know, for me, I don't have a lot of tools in that way, the way you guys do, but that's kind of the thing that jumped out so much to me with motivational interviewing or anything like that. Just trying to understand how you can get an individual to hit the switch and believe it's good. It's going to happen. This is it. And if you can get them to take those steps, I think we're ready to rock and roll.
Speaking of, like you said, that state of mind, right? Do you think it's helpful to set like a realistic expectations, like going into it? Because I feel like people go into it, like you said, man, make me a plan. I want to be, you know what I mean? I want to get ripped. I want this I want to be looking like this and by a month. I want to be jacked. Like, do you, and then a couple days into it to get overwhelmed? Like, what do you feel like it's helpful, like to have those expectations at a realistic level?
That's such a great question. And yeah, look, you tell me this: if you're slinging anything, then you might just try to take the money and run. But if you're good at what you do, you absolutely owe it to the individual. You owe it to humanity to just tell the truth. If somebody doesn't know, they're just asking you. So if you tell them the truth and they say, well, listen, I wanted results in 1 week and you told me I couldn't get it, I'm going to go somewhere else. You're doing both of you a favor. Right. You know, because you know when you don't get them in 1 week, when you don't get them results, they're going to tell everybody you suck. And they're not going to even tell them that you didn't get them results in 1 week. They're going to tell them that like you just didn't do it. So they're going to think you were training for a year or something, right? So you're better off just being honest and saying, listen, for what you're trying to do, this is roughly how long it takes. And when you have the background that I do, if I got drastically deconditioned because of essentially what I was telling you guys, what I've built in my body and those connections I've made, any athlete in general, those connections, it's a lot easier to get back if I fell off, right? And what's great that you could say to someone who's worried, yeah, but if I start making progress and I lose it, I'll feel bad. Sure, but it'll be that much easier to get it back. And that's the key to it is if you build something good, it'll be less likely that you don't want to have it. So a lot of people are like kind of like building on top of progress. Those people are usually the people that go, as long as I don't eat junk food tonight, right? I won't eat it tomorrow. But if I have that piece of chocolate, I'm going to go off the wagon, right? Well, that kind of approach seems to really work with people. And that's what I would say is building proper and fair expectations is really what any coach, trainer owes to an individual who comes to you. You must be honest with them. And I think if you're honest, the two of you can come up with a plan, right? It may take a while. It may be they're not ready for it. But I think a lot of times if you can outline it and you can show people that you know how to get them there and you can really kind of show them the steps, they're usually going to stay on with you. They might have wanted it in a week. But if you can tell them where they're going to be in 6 weeks and they believe it and you get them there, and then 6 weeks later, you get them there, they're staying on. But you know what's crazy? They keep doing it. Next thing you know, they look like you. And then you find out they quit their job as a day trader and now they're a trainer. And you're like, really?
out there doing pull-ups on the traffic light side. Like, oh, okay, all right.
Yeah, and it's awesome because like you helped them get there. And at the same time, you're like, man, like that was amazing.
Yeah. I believe that reduces their anxiety. One, like you said, they're not putting their expectations of I want to look like this, and when they in the expectations or when they don't hit that mark, they get discouraged, or these other different things that come into play. Like you said, you're individualizing, like it sounds like, what's going to be good for them, right? Like you guys are mutually creating, a plan that's going to work for them. So like you say, hey, you're in 6 weeks, we can have you looking like this based off what, your schedule is, based on what you eat, blah, 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 right? And once they hit that 6 weeks and they look like what you guys discussed, boom, right? Magic.
Yeah, and here's an interesting thing too. I think people more than the looks. I mean, there's always this idea like you want to look great naked, right? There's like always that. Like some people make it seem like that's the only reason why people go to the gym and all, right? But I think some people just want to feel like they know what they're doing. And then it's interesting, right? Think about that gigantic burst of energy that you get when you have what you consider to be a great training session or a great workout. And listen, play basketball, right? That to me, I'm going to tell you right now, if you're a ball player, a lot of times I got guys that come back to me and we just kind of do more like corrective work to make sure that they're like striking properly and like their body's ready for the impact of basketball. But like, if you're a ball player or something like that, play basketball. It's amazing how great you feel. You get done, you're like, oh my God, life is great and all. Those endorphins that you get, it's huge. And I think that's it. If you can teach somebody how to do that for themselves, like how they can go and basically find a way to be productive and exercise and get their body moving, it's kind of cool. It's like a skill that they can have forever, right? Yeah. And I think that might be the big thing that might be a big thing you're saying to them is you're anxious right now because people who are at the gym seem like they know more than you, even though you don't know that you just walked into a gym that just opened up and everybody's a beginner, right? And think about it. It's like the first day of school. if you come into school, let's say you're a new kid that's there, you don't know who all the other new kids are. You just think you're the only new kid and everyone's looking at you. But what's crazy is most of the people who are in school weren't even really paying attention to you, right? They were like, they were worried about, did they get their homework done? Was that girl looking at me and all? What's for lunch? So I think what's interesting is I don't think most gyms, people are as into you as you are sort of into what you're trying to do. But I think if you come in with a game plan, and you are at some point confident that it's going to work, it's going to really help you. And I think as you get there, if you're there for 3 or 4 weeks, I think you'll start to realize that maybe some of the people you thought were looking at you, they're just doing their own. I mean, everybody's on their own quest, right?
Right.
I think that's what you just described is like the spotlight effect, right? Of what we call it, especially like you said, you think when you go into any environment, everyone's paying attention to you, right? You think everyone's going to notice the stain on your shirt. You think everyone's going to notice, all these other different, things that you're concerned about. And then it just becomes heightened. And I think, like you mentioned, the gym is a really good example. And you mentioned, like the feeling, right, that you experience, right? Because that was something that the other article that Jay had mentioned to us about, that feeling, right? Like talk to us more about that, the difference between how most people feel, or how you can feel from before you start your workout to after you finish. Like what's something that, that you've either personally experienced, or it's like some of your clients have experienced, as far as like that mood, that change of mood, that change in just their spirit, their whole energy that you've noticed after, because that's a huge link between, exercise and mental health, is that change of, that increase in mood and that improvement as far as the mental health. Talk to us about what you've seen or experienced.
Well, so it's cool. You could get somebody coming to you and you'll be like, hey, Dana, how are you? I'm here.
Like, the good old stock answer, right?
You are. Okay. Well, we're going to get started. I think it's going to be good. This is going to be good. We'll make it better, and then you're like, cool, let's go. And then you get them moving, and you basically, throughout the course of a session, as you start picking certain exercises, and for me, it's like there's a script, right? Like a lot of times, like we're going to do probably some foam rolling. We're going to do some, active stretching. Then we're going to go do some dynamic stretching, which might be like lunges and body weight type things. Or maybe we're just practicing a specific lift at a lighter weight or something. And then we get a few sets in. And what's funny is I'm here then turns into, how'd that look? And then after that, it's like, you get a few more sets in and they're like, so how was your weekend? Okay. And then you start getting them moving a little more and they're like, ooh, that was good, right? Oh man, I'm telling you. And I got a new goal for us and all. I know we just did 185 there and all, but I'm going to get 225. And you're like, really? And then by the time they're done and all, that was awesome. That's great and all. So I can't wait for Thursday. And you're like, that's awesome. And they come walking out and they're like, looking like Ric Flair, like, woo, And I think that comes down to the whole neurotransmitter thing, right? And my understanding is you get some serotonin, some dopamine, the noradrenaline. So like you get that effect. And I love it, man. It's like there's something to an individual who gets out there and gets a chance to move and sort of kind of medicates himself naturally in a way, right?
Excellent. That's excellent, man. I mean, listen, that's you answered my question without me even asking. Like that's excellent. I mean, you just illustrated what the article was talking about, right? When we talk about, because again, like one thing I tell people is the best way, that I know, or one of the best ways to get yourself started in terms of like relieving symptoms of depression, anxiety, is to get on the ground, right? And do some exercises. Because of a lot of things, right? Because again, it's impossible for our body to exist in two states, right? So that person that you're talking about goes from being irritated and angry to relaxed and eventually happy, right? Because you're doing a bunch of different things, right? Like you're distracting their mind cognitively, you're talking to them, right? They're engaged in another activity, so they're distracted. And then physically their body is being challenged, right? And your body is under stress. So with all of those things going on, it's impossible for them to hold on to the stress of the day or whatever they were angry about when they walked in and initially encountered you, right? So that's why I said that was perfectly laid out, because we definitely wanted to kind of touch on and get your perspective definitely on how exercise impacts mood, right? So that's perfect.
I appreciate it. And again, for me, it's fun because I'm geeked up about doing this because again, I love the link and I'm taking notes, so like you see me over here, like when you say something like that, I'm taking notes. So it's just an opportunity to learn from you guys as well. I mean, it's huge to me. I want to bring this thought up. I remember starting to do rock climbing because I was going to do a Savage race, and Savage race is just like one of those big mud runs. And I remember
is it like a Tough Mudder or something different?
Yeah, so it's basically a Tough Mudder. And you got to understand me, I'm not a big fan of like huge distance. So this one was about 6 mile run and a ton of obstacles. So that gets me more excited, right? Because I want more of the obstacles. I don't want to run like 10 miles. I want to run fewer. I would love like the 3 mile one where you just knock out an obstacle. Like that's just kind of my thing, like an obstacle every couple of minutes. But the rock climbing that I was doing, I did it because I wanted to be good at maybe there were like 3 obstacles there that I knew I was going to need it for. There was like these bars that you were going to do something with, but there was actual climbing that had to be done. And I have a little bit of a fear of heights, but I also get a kick out of heights. So I was at one of the rock climbing gyms and I decide to start working my way up. And once I get past a certain height, it starts feeling like I'm really up there. And what's cool is I start noticing the music a little bit, but I start realizing that whatever I was thinking of that day really didn't matter, because now it was on a quest to get up to the top, to get to where I want to get to not fall off, because I didn't want to fall. I don't care who's spotting you. You still don't want to fall. And there was something to just having a peace up there and just recognizing that, like, I literally could not care any less about what was going on in my past or the future. It was now.
And then if you're being honest, like certain tasks, right, require so much attention, so much physical strength and ability and concentration that you might not have made it up to the top if you was thinking about, even the difficulty of the task. You know what I mean? Like certain things. And that's why I think certain things are beneficial, right? Like that's why I think for some people going to the gym, like when they have a challenging workout and those things really gives them that relief from their day, right? Because you got to really immerse yourself in it, and focus on it physically and mentally, which requires, again, you can't exist in 2 states, right? So you can't be caught up and totally focused on your day and totally focused on your workout. It just doesn't work like that. You know what I mean? So
it was also, it seems like it was like a form of mindfulness once you really got into that zone, because you were paying attention to that particular task in a certain particular way, right? Once you got to that certain point, like you said, you heard the music, but it wasn't like, it was just kind of maybe like background noise, because you were focused on getting to that goal once you got to a certain state. And that's a lot of what mindfulness is. It's paying attention without judgment. So as opposed to you weren't looking around worrying about like, all right, if I'm falls, I'm gonna do this thing. It's like, I'm up here at this certain point. Now I'm focused strictly on that. Forget everything else. It's getting to that point. And like you said, you're paying attention just to that particular aspect and for that particular thing. And it's an amazing type of phenomenon that you just described, and what a lot of people experience when they're trying to achieve a certain task or that goal, especially in the realm of exercise.
Yeah, again, I think part of the joke there too is as you get higher up there, you're closer to the speakers.
There you go.
So the music was probably even kicking up. We're like, oh, okay. But it's like kind of like playing chess in that situation, like at that point, there's just like a real concentration on one thing and you just can't be anywhere else, like you were saying. And, again, I think it kind of comes back to like some people in like, say, a basketball game, when you're dishing, when you're in there, like there could be other things going on. Someone could be in the gym, but you're really just focused in on your task. And what's crazy is you ever just grab like a steal or you do something like that, and it's almost like you might have practiced something, you might have worked on it, but if you do something just right, you have this sort of unconscious competence. And I think that that's one of the cool things about working out regularly. And I'll say this, I may have an idea of what I think like great technique is and what great training is and that type of thing. But one of the cool things I would say to somebody who might have anxiety is, if you're willing to put the time into this, there gets a point where when you come to the gym, even when a task is hard, it's almost as thoughtless sometimes when you're training as it is like to drive over there. Like there are times where you ever drive the car and like you get somewhere and like you don't even know, like, oh, I'm already home.
You don't even know you got there.
Yep.
And the gym can sometimes be that way. Now, granted, some of your training, you want to be more challenging than that. But on some of the days where somebody is totally burnt out and let's say they're at that point sort of exhausting all of the mental ability that they have at that moment to be able to do, like they can't really think much more. There's something great about doing something that you've done regularly and just knowing that you can get through it. And it almost costs no extra energy. In my world, building up your tendons for a runner to be able to strike properly and use tendons instead of using muscles for your run form, right, is what allows you to not waste energy and be able to run all day. It's kind of like the same thing. If you don't have to think too much about it, it's not going to cost as much energy to do the process, yet you'll still get the reward of all those great endorphins. So that's where sometimes just, well, signing up for a class sometimes does that, right? Come in, show up, and a lot of times before you know it, it can just be over because you're letting a professional put you through it. And at this point, you don't have to think too much. So for some people who have anxiety about, I don't know what to do, sometimes a class is just a great option. And particularly going with a friend to a class, right? You know your friend's got your back. Like you should be hanging out with someone you know has got your back. So if you go with a friend to a class who does something, now they're going to take you through it. And most people are going to want you to like the same thing they like too. So they're going to probably try to make the experience better. And chances are the individual who's in the class is going to see someone new. They're going to want them to like it. So that might be a great way to kind of ease the process as well. So maybe like a boxing class or something of that nature might be good.
Cool. Right. Eric, man, you done hit it on every mark, good brother. We appreciate it, man. You got some time to hang out with us on some non-exercise related topics? You want to get in on this?
Oh, without a doubt, man. This is fun for me.
That's what I'm talking about. All right, cool. Listen. All right. So you know what's as popular as exercise, or maybe even more popular than exercise? Anybody want to guess?
Pizza.
Okay. Twitter. Pizza. Twitter. Exactly. Social media. All right. Social media, guys. All right. So listen, more young Americans are hoping to capitalize on the rise of social media by getting paid to sell products, much like their favorite celebrities. All right. So according to a new study conducted by market research company Morning Consult, 86% of people that are aged 13 to 38 would like to become a social media influencer. All right. And out of those that participated in this particular study, only 12% considered themselves to be influencers already. All right. So this is what we're looking at, right? When we're talking about like the impact of the social media influencers. All right. While a lot of the companies that are behind a lot of the apps that we just talked about, like Twitter, Instagram, all these other different apps, now they typically don't pay people to use their platform. However, now, if the person can generate enough of a following on these popular apps, the brands will pay them to post an advertisement on their behalf, right? And this has become like very lucrative for a lot of people, right? For anyone that has like hundreds of thousands or millions of followers, listen, there are some influencers, right, that have up to 1 million followers that can get up to like $10,000 per post, right? Depending on the platform. So like if you're at like 1 million followers and up and you're getting into that territory, you can charge up to like $100,000, right, to promote, right? Some people are getting 250 grand a post, like especially if it's like on YouTube or one of the, like if you're an influencer like in the gaming industry, I mean these folks are making bank. So this is becoming more the trend between, like you said, that 13 to 38. Jay, what's your take on this growing popular social media trend, the influencer?
my take is probably gonna make me sound like a hater, right? But
man.
what I will tell you is this. What I'm gonna tell you is this. All right, this is what we're seeing is the impact of technology, right? Of course, you know, people are able to work from home, make money from their phone, become millionaires from their phone, secure generational wealth through their phone, essentially, right? But I'm gonna be very honest. As a 40-year-old man who has crossed through like a few decades in terms of influence, you know what this made me think of? And this is gonna be a wild reference.
Oh wow. Here we go. We ready for it.
But remember Biggie when he was like, either you slinging crack rock or you got a wicked jump shot. Remember that?
Yeah. Yep.
The reason why it made me think of that is because in the 90s, right? We used to see all these kids that it would be like, we would be like, the trope would be, or the saying would be in my household, a lot of households is basketball and rapping, like blah, 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 blah. You got to get your education, right? Social media is the new that, is my whole point, right? You don't see kids telling you they want to be basketball players no more. I don't see kids running up on me trying to sell me their album anymore. Now everybody has a podcast, and now everybody is an influencer, and everybody's trying to go viral. So that's why it made me think of that, because in the 90s where everybody wanted to be Shaq or Allen Iverson, you know, or whoever, or you know what I mean, or Biggie or Pac, now everybody wants to be Kylie Jenner. You know, so that's just what that's what it made me think about.
Eric, what you think? What's your take on this? The social media influencer crave that's going through.
Well, it just lets you know how brilliant corporations are, right? Think about it. They create a product, and then they find a way to create an audience to join that product, right? So basically, they create this thing. You go to it, and you want to put your stuff because realistically, you want to get attention one way or the other, right? And then you get enough people there, and they're like, "Oh, I got an idea. So I got this product, which is people. And what if we pull other corporations in and we say, listen, if you guys want to join this cool thing that we have here, you guys are going to have to work something into this, right? Like, I don't know how we're going to do it, but financially and all, like, you know, it's going to cost some money. You're going to pay for some posts. You're going to have to do all this other stuff. But we're going to let you then start to advertise to people. So we're going to have you pay money and then be able to advertise to people. And then you get corporations on, say, like Instagram, who are always trying to sell you stuff. But what's cool is those corporations were so smart, they said, we're going to get our money back. So what we're going to do is we're going to say, if you buy our stuff and post in our stuff, you might be able to get a discount. You might be able to get a free shirt.
We're going to get our money back.
Your friends to buy something. That's it, right? And then you're like, oh, well, I like free shirts, right? So then you start posting like crazy, trying to get your friends to buy it. And like, if you can build yourself up enough and get enough business to them, they'll throw you a little something. That was, to me, worse than when you used to sell candy back in the day. And if you sold enough candy, you could get a little prize or whatever.
Right.
You might get a little trinket. You might get a trip to the mall or a pizza party.
That's a good analogy, though.
Yeah, it was worse than when you went to like Dave and Buster's and all, and you spent all your money and all. Next thing you know, you get one of those basketballs you could get now at Five Below and all. But if you if you got your parents to give you $50 and you spend enough on there, you got to get that. It's just like, I think in a lot of ways they've come up with the conclusion that if they can get you to feel like you might be the one in a million, influencer, then you got a chance. And like you said, you got a lot of people. I mean, here's the crazy thing. There are people showing off pictures that should probably only go to the most important people in their life. They're throwing that on Instagram, and they've got like 200 likes, and they've got like maybe 3,000 followers.
Right.
I'm thinking like, you're giving it away, and you're not going to get to that level. It just, to me, it seems kind of sad.
I look at it, man. That's like one, that was a great analogy that you made. But Jay, you know what? I see your point, but at the same time, I'm not mad at them. You know,
I ain't mad at them
because I see it as they're finding another way, or like you said, especially with COVID, of how things people realize, okay, you know what, doing the 9 to 5 is not the same, that I don't have to do it, right? People became creative and finding other different ways to generate any type of income. And you know what? People are using it. They're looking at it, especially that particular age demographic, right? It's easier. Why should I go to school when you got folks that are like, what's the bull's name? Mr. Beast, right? He's pulling down 54 million. You got the Jake Paul, he's pulling 45 million a year. Logan Paul pulling in 18 million, right? And they're just doing stuff that you would do with your friends, right? The stupid stuff that a lot of them used to do, that we used to do growing up, right? And we didn't have cell phones, we didn't have like the camera, you know. But a lot of the stuff that they're doing, they were just recording themselves doing dumb
Right.
stuff. Now, of course, they've, you know, it's been, you know, expanded to a whole, you know, another dangerous, stupid level, like Eric alluded to, as far as just putting things that probably don't need to be shared. But if you're putting something out there, you got people that are going to like it, right? You have more demographic that are doing the same, that are like-minded. And guess what? They're like, look, I can get paid for it. And best believe, you know, the company, if they're paying somebody like 2 million, right? Or they're paying someone 100,000 to advertise, we all know that imagine what the company itself is making. So even though they're shelving that out, we know what they're getting back in return is tenfold, right? So, but a lot of kids are seeing this as the easier way, as opposed to, you know what, what I got to go to college for? Why am I going to go out and actually get a job at a 9 to 5 or some other place to do work?
Yo,
No, I got my cell phone. I could just record this, you know, and
now,
that gives that pipe dream of like, yo, I can do this. I can get paid for it for just being me.
well, listen, bro, it's the gift and the curse, right? Because it evens the playing field a little bit, right? Because a kid that maybe does not have the resources, right, or the opportunities, can have a great idea and an iPhone, right, and change his whole situation, right? So in that standpoint, it's great,
Right.
right? You can have somebody in a remote part of the country, a disadvantaged area, right, that can have access to information or people or whatever, interview, you know, that they might not be able to have, right? You know, we are professionals and we are trained to see down the street and around the corner and see the angles. And the only issue I see with this is, it's the reason why I call this the microwave generation, right?
Yeah.
Right? Because everything is fast, right? If you want to talk to a girl, you jump in her DMs and you can respond. She may respond to you in 2 seconds, right? People are uploading videos and becoming viral sensations overnight, right? So what I think, and this is anecdotal, right? But what I'm starting to see play out with our young people is, you are starting to see them have challenges handling things, either following through, right? Or handling things where they are forced to deal with their feelings in person.
Yeah.
Right. And those are the downsides I see, especially with the microwave part. That's why I call them the microwave generation, because if it ain't done in 3 minutes, they give up.
Well, a result of that is because anyone that's successful, right? Because you really have to really get into like the framework of this. In order for you to have this many followers, in order for you to maintain them, you have to constantly put out content, right? It's not like you can just do one video and then it blows up. Okay, you're gonna get some followers, but then you have to continue putting it out. Like if you go to any TikTok, you go to Instagram, you go to any of these other different platforms, you're gonna see the people that have the largest followings have videos damn near every day. Right. Because like you said, it's a microwave. You will be forgotten if you don't put stuff out. Okay.
That's a fact.
Like your followers. So they have to get, they're so immersed in putting out this content, whether it be 30 seconds, 3 minutes, 15 seconds. But like you mentioned, Jay, like you're so immersed in what's happening and me putting out this content, that what's happening, like when an issue takes place in the real world, you're not really socially equipped to do it, right? There are some deficits as far as like you're functioning, because you've been so immersed in handling things, you know, via whatever on your phone or via in social media. And that's where you said, like I said, that's where the pitfalls come from, because you're so concerned in dealing with that because you got to do something just to stay relevant, that you've kind of disassociated yourself from when things happen in reality or these like actual intense emotions, you don't know how to handle it. So that's why we start to see people putting out their emotions in things that are usually be reserved for like intimate moments or intimate feelings. I'm putting it out here, right? I'm having a crisis, so I gotta record it, because they're used to doing everything online and social media.
I just don't get it. Like I don't know if it's a reflection of lack of support or if this is just something that I just don't understand in terms of like, I don't understand going through like a painful situation and going on live.
That's where the support is coming from, Jay.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
Yeah,
see, that's the
right?
interesting thing. When you get some of these kids, again, I get a chance to work with a lot of these kids. And, again, like I would be more likely to want to talk to one of my friends in person.
Right.
But most of them are so used to just texting their friends back and forth, right? And like, they're like texting. Sometimes they don't even see their friends like that. And then like, if you're regularly on like live or you're regularly doing videos and that just feels comforting to you, like in a lot of ways, you just want to put your thing up there and then get your, for a lot of these kids, it might be like 1,000 likes or something, and get a bunch of DMs, wish you well. Oh, just let me know if you're okay.
Exactly.
And again, it gets like, you get that positive affirmation from that, right? Again, it's like for guys like us, we don't use it as much. I have to use it in the fitness industry, but I don't love it. I like being able to teach with it more, but it's funny if you do something special and you get 100+ likes or something, and then a bunch of people write like, "Hey, congratulations" or something, feels good. And you know what? You're checking your phone. You're like, oh, okay. Remember like Facebook when you first got it, and all of a sudden you hit a birthday and you had like 300 people tell you like happy birthday, and you're like, man, I'm awesome, like I'm having a great day, and I think that's sort of what it is. So yeah, that would be the one thing I would say is, even though I don't totally get it, and I think in a lot of ways some of the kids, and this is going sort of a little bit off topic, but some of the kids I work with have a hard time with in-person communication because a lot of what they do is so virtual. So they're great with virtual, like, and they could teach you a few things, but when it comes down to eye contact, handshake, and just even reading people, it's much harder for them to do that. And and also, like I think we were saying too, for some of these kids, it's like hard for them to recognize, since everything happens so fast, that like sometimes bad things happen and it takes a little while for it to clear. So they're like very emotional, and I know you have to get through it in different ways, but sometimes for as many times as you're going to have good things go on, you have to kind of learn and develop a little bit of a toughness for the fact that sometimes things aren't going to go exactly how you wanted, and sort of build a resiliency that way. And you have to do it your own way, I guess, but I do think that is one of those things that for us, it might have been a while till something bad happened at home. You might have to wait until you got to school to really be able to get the support system. These kids, if something bad happens, immediately they can go on with 1,000 of their best friends.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's the gift and the curse because there's, like you said, that support is right there, so that could be a benefit, but then it's also right there. So when you need space, that might not be afforded to you. So I don't know, man. I don't know what the right answer is, but it's a good perspective.
I just think, listen, the money's there, so we get that. If we're gonna go back to that kind of concept and all, it's a good thing that if someone can make money, that's great. But at the same time, as you were kind of describing, it kind of goes back to the LeBron James thing. If LeBron James is worth $100 million to an owner, how much does the owner really make off of LeBron James?
Right.
And it comes back to that. So if you're an influencer, and even if you're getting, let's say you found a way to make $1 million a year, you're probably generating a lot of revenue for them. So it's almost never that you're the one winning. So in a lot of ways, it's still a pyramid scheme. And that's what I would go back to.
You're absolutely right. And you're never winning, because think about it. Think about the business model where I create a platform and it is your job, right? You join the platform and then it is your job. How you become popular is to go viral and advertise my platform 1 million times, 7 million times.
Check my post out.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah. Yo, anytime
tell me about
goes
it. No, you gotta see my
viral,
post and then like it and then share it.
Somebody goes viral on YouTube 17 million times, like YouTube is happy. Like Your YouTube is happy.
We'll pay
IG
in.
is happy.
We'll throw you a little something because we're getting all this.
Yeah, we're gonna bring you into the ad revenue program and give you a $5 check every month for all of those 20 million views. It's
right. And you can tell
scheme.
everyone you're an influencer. Now you can use that in your title. You're an influencer.
Yeah.
Doing big things, baby.
Because think about it, right? And you know the fix is in because people take the popularity. It's like anything else, right? All the rappers get ripped off in their record labels, but they make money touring, right? So Instagram, you're gonna get ripped off because you're gonna advertise their platform, make them go, make them go viral. And then you're gonna make your real money by other people who aren't as famous saying, here's $2,000, post me, Right. So, but Instagram gonna get their money out you first. It's a pyramid scheme,
Absolutely, that's it, And it's funny. I like how they created too. Like when someone told me about Instagram at first, I didn't join right away because I wasn't that into it. But also, they're like, yeah, and then you have followers, and I'm like, huh?
Yeah, right.
No, that sounds terrible.
Follow me where?
Like, I would never say that I have followers, And then all of a sudden they're like, no, but like you're like a personality, so you'll have followers. And I'm like, but like, didn't Facebook say I had friends? So these people aren't my friends, they're my followers. Yeah, they follow you because you're like a leader, and like it's kind of like you're a celebrity, and I was like, I was never trying to be this.
Yeah, it's crazy, man.
I don't know. It's how it goes,
It's wild. Before we get out of here, all right, speaking of viral, and Jay, a lot of people were hitting me about this, so I figured we had to just discuss this and get this out the way. Your buddy Jussie Smollett, man. All right.
Oh, man.
Yeah. All right. So just to give a brief overview of Jussie Smollett from Empire fame, for most people who are aware of or familiar with Jussie Smollett. All right. So a couple years ago, January 29th, 2019, Jussie Smollett stated that he was assaulted by two men who were yelling racial and homophobic slurs. He said the two men had put a noose around his neck and poured unknown substance on him, according to the police report that he made. And after that, celebrities, politicians, and advocacy groups rallied behind the actor. All right. So police, of course, did their due diligence. They did an investigation. And they analyzed the video and all the other evidence. A month later, the police department came out and they said that Smollett had allegedly paid two brothers that he had known $3,500 to stage the attack and to take advantage of the pain and anger of racism to promote his career, so on and so forth. So after his arrest, Smollett apologized, to the show for any embarrassment to anybody and such. However, he maintained that he was innocent. Okay. Now, in February 2020, a grand jury indicted him for making false reports, and he appeared in court. He pleaded not guilty. All right. Fast forward these next 2 years, he was going through all these different legal proceedings, and here we are. Right. So a couple months ago, Smollett, he was sentenced to 30 months probation for fabricating a racist and homophobic hate crime against himself. And so the judge had ordered him to spend 150 days, which is about 5 months of that 30-month probation in jail. All right. So to say, again, up until this point, he's continued to maintain his innocence. And if you saw the video from his court sentencing, I mean, to say that he said it and has conviction regarding his proclaimed innocence would be an understatement. All right. So when the judge was announcing his sentence, this is what he said. He said, I would like to say that, Your Honor, I'm not suicidal. That's what I would like to say. All right. I'm not suicidal. I'm innocent. I'm not suicidal. If I did this, then this means that I stuck to my first fears of Black Americans in this country for over 400 years and the fears of the LGBT community. Your Honor, I respect you. I respect the jury, but I did not do this. I'm not suicidal. And if anything happens to me when I go in there, I did not do it to myself. And you must all know that. I respect your decision. Jail time, I'm not suicidal. And that's how they let him off. Okay. So Jay, as this whole thing has unfolded, what's your opinion and kind of takeaway from even as this thing was an ongoing saga?
I'm gonna make this short and sweet, right? Jussie Smollett is not gonna get any sympathy from me. He's guilty. He's been convicted, right? He wasted a lot of people's time and money, right? First of all, I think he should do the whole 5 months. Right? I really think he should do more time than that, because we're talking about somebody making a mockery of a federal hate crime, right? I think, honestly, he's not my client. He's never been in my chair. So this is pure speculation, but I think there's a lot deeper issues and problems going on with him, right? He has a lot going on beneath the surface internally, that he needs to deal with, right? Because he used his position and his fame, right? You have made it to a position that a lot of people will never rise to, no matter how hard they try, right? And him being famous, him being financially stable, it wasn't enough. He wanted attention so bad, right, that he would use his race as an African-American male and his status as a member of the LGBT, or as identifying as part of the LGBTQ community, and manipulate both things, right? And think about this. There was a noose involved in this crime, right? So this guy has no credibility, right?
He went to the police department with the noose around his
neck. Right, and I'm gonna be very honest. He should do the whole 30 months in jail, because of the simple fact that we sit up here all day, right? And we talk about justice, right? And we talk specifically about people in communities that don't get justice. And here you have a guy, right, who takes his skin color, right, and makes a mockery out of all of the serious issues we've been talking about for a year. So I don't have much to say, but I have no sympathy for him. You know, I hope his career suffers greatly. And I hope most people would think twice before standing next to him, because he has some deeper issues going on.
Eric, what did you think as you saw this playing out in the media? Any thoughts?
Well, I think he would have been a great influencer if he wasn't such a great actor, because he definitely buys into his own shit, and it's amazing.
He's dying on that hill, isn't he?
Oh my God. I'm not suicidal, you know, like, as if, who's killing you? Like, you're not Epstein. You know, what's the secret you have?
Right, and that was the thing. I'm like, does he think he was going for the Epstein thing? Like,
no, he thinks he's like the sacrificial lamb. For what? Like, I mean, bottom line is this. It's so frustrating for me, because I look at it and I say, like, here's a dude, like, you just brought the noose, right? And like, that's like one of the most screwed up things that has ever happened in a history, is feeling like somebody's so worthless that you can take their life and make an example of them. Like, the idea that somebody died hanging, like, from anything, and that basically it was like their family had to look at it, and everybody had to look at it as if they were such a piece of crap, like that birds would be on it or something. Like, to leave somebody up there, to me, it's one of the most despicable things that we could talk about.
Now, I'm gonna let you finish, E, but I just want to underline your point, right? That's why I brought it up, right? Because what it signifies, especially when you talk about America and American slavery, he knows what he was doing by bringing a noose into it. And go ahead, you can finish your point.
No, I thought it was brilliant when you did bring it up, man. It was funny. I don't know that I was going to go the noose direction until you said it. And it's so fucked up. I just felt like I kind of had to go there with it, where I go like, you know, you are the problem. You know, it's like, I think the crazy thing is, you ask kids, young kids, you see that guy over there, half the time they don't explain, oh, he's a black kid. Oh, he's a Puerto Rican kid. They don't even say it. You know? So what's crazy is these young kids are coming up not even pushing race, right? And you got kids that are actually saying that they actually are identifying with different sexualities kind of early on, and kids are putting up with it, not only putting up with it, but accepting it and being friends with them. And like, our generation's so screwed up, we're like, oh yeah, they're a little soft nowadays. No, yeah, but you know what? They're kind of better. Like, they don't see it that way. Yet this guy has the nerve to take the ugliest parts of society and create a false narrative and create an enemy, when there are actually some people that are screwed up enough out there that do this. Yet he created a false one and then put that out there, when really most of us, right, we're all hanging, right? We don't want to see this ever. So this guy created a false scenario that was terrible.
Yeah,
this is the part I don't understand. It's so many, like, we have so many regular examples, right? So with so many regular like what, that's why I said there's something deeper going on, because if he wanted to champion an issue, he could have jumped behind. It's a bunch of different issues that he could have jumped behind in terms of that are plaguing the African American community and the LGBTQ community without making up a hate crime.
And that was the thing, Jay. Like that's the so unfortunate part with it, is that he weaponized like 3 different marginalized groups, right? Because if you look at it, like he went through the court system. His family was saying, "Oh, well, he's being kept in the psych ward. He's at risk for self-harm and so on and so forth." Here's the thing: he went into it. One, you did it as far as with the race situation, right? You weaponized each group. You go into court, right, after there's been evidence, right, showing you're going in, you're buying the supplies, the people are testifying against you, so on and so forth, right? You're still dying on that hill, right? You're still sticking to the lie. And then you get in the middle of the courtroom saying, I'm not suicidal. So now you're marginalizing the mental health aspect of it, right? Now it's like, yeah, you know what? If you go to jail, there are going to be some people upset with you. Because like you said, the people that look like you, people that look like me, you got folks that are actually, like, again, being, their lives are being caused just by their sexual orientation. You got people with mental health that are being discriminated against, and you threw out all of them cards, right? You got on your soapbox in the middle of the courtroom, Your Honor, I'm not suicidal, I'm so on and so forth, right? All these different things. Yeah, you know what? A lot of these groups, people that belong to these particular groups, are going to be very upset with you. So yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah, you know what? Maybe you should absolutely be feeling a little stressful. You should be in fear because you're going into an area where you've offended a lot of people. So understandably so. And what you're talking about, you should be stressed out. You should be anxious. That's like, dude, you need to get to a point where, listen, apologize for whatever this was and let it go. You've already destroyed your career. You're dying on this hill for what? Right?
Well,
and
the term I would use is
people off.
The term I would use is he'd actually have to own up to it, which means he'd have to probably, in his own mind, be willing to accept that he's every bit of this needy, kind of like sad person. And like, he'd kind of like, think about it. That's a tough thing to own up to. Like if everyone was like, you're full of shit, and he was like, you know what? You're right. Like, I just was trying to be popular. Like I was looking for a thing, and clearly this industry has just warped me in a different way. It would be hard to come off as a champion of that. But maybe in a way, like with some time, that's it. But think about it. It really was such a cooked up, heinous thing that it's kind of hard to be the one to actually admit to that. Like, it's like if you were drunk driving and you hit a kid and killed him, that would be a hard thing to do. But at least you could blame it on the alcohol, right?
That's the thing. But he went so big, Eric. He went so big with this. Like, dude, you could, like Jay, you mentioned, you could have went a different route, right? If you wanted to further your career, but you went so big and say, you know what, I'm gonna play the race card. I'm gonna play the sexual orientation card. I'm gonna play, like, dude,
bro, like, this dude just threw a whole bunch of spaghetti at the wall to see what stuck.
Yeah. You see what I mean? So
absolutely. And left a big mess, a gigantic mess,
right? Made a giant mess, and now it's like, now you can't walk it back. But it's like you're just continuing to exacerbate the issue by dying on this hill and not letting the lie go. And this is how you can tell, like, you're not a good liar. Okay, we can tell that you are not a good liar, and then you decide to lie big, which is like one of the worst things that any liar can do. Right.
Yeah.
And so now we have an update. So last week, after a less than a week in jail, right? Smollett, he was released by an Illinois court that cut short his 150-day sentence pending an appeal and such. So he's at home.
Oh my God.
He's at home.
Listen,
the presidents were like,
yo, say before, right?
They're like, we don't want to look at him anymore.
Wins again. Privilege wins again.
Yeah.
Right? And listen. I don't get it, man.
Yeah.
Like certain people need to be made an example of, like, and this.
Yeah, it's just,
listen,
really
people are getting more time for stealing PPE checks, bro.
Right. Yeah.
You know, man, I'm glad you brought that story up. You know, I think it's, again, it's such an easy story to talk about, and again, it's just really a shame. I mean, I think that's really what it is. His life is what it is, right? Like, you do your own thing. But I just think with maybe this is a whole media thing too in general. It's the fact that the media loves sinking their teeth into this crap too, right? You think about it from a journalism standpoint, they hear this thing and of course they want to go right into it. And then it turns out that like he gave them everything that they wanted and then they were happy to push it. And it's funny because once it got exposed, they were willing to stay on that too. But it's just one of those things that goes to show that we'd rather promote some of the most awful things that happen in society instead of trying to give people the idea that, hey, things are actually getting better in life, right?
Hey, Eric,
that,
I'm kidding. I'm kidding, but I'm half not kidding. Have you watched the news lately? In terms of them having a positive story?
Never.
If you're not watching sports, then the news is all negative, right? Like,
well, I listen to Breaking Points, right? And I feel like they give me decent news, but I'm going to agree. Even them, who I feel like they do a good job of covering what's actually happening, I know that most of it is sort of done in a way that's designed to be able to give you, make you feel something. And you're totally right. I think the news is designed to make you feel something. You're right. If you're not watching, say, sports or something, where it's still designed to make you feel something, right? But it's a little bit of a different thing. I agree. I think, you know, that's a giant problem. And that's sort of what allows a guy like him to be able, that's the atmosphere, that's the culture that allows a guy like this to be able to pull something like this so easily without people trying to validate it first. Because we all thought it was terrible and hated what happened to him. And then when we found out he's the one who cooked it up, it was like, wait, hold on. Really? There's no way he can cook that up.
I think that's part of what makes people angry, right? Because if you look at the climate of this country right now, it's the wrong tree to bark up. It's just the wrong tree to bark up. And for you to come trying to throw gasoline on that fire, it makes you irresponsible, ignorant to me, and desperate for attention. I'm gonna leave it there.
There you go.
Exactly.
Eric, man, listen, we talked about a lot, bro. You were very helpful, very insightful on a lot of this stuff, man. I couldn't imagine, and thank you, a more picture perfect guest. We appreciate you making the time, my guy. Before we get out of here, anything you would like to promote, anything you want to put out there, go for it.
Well, I appreciate that. So, you know, my Instagram's coach_Strassman, which I just put some videos out there from time to time if you want to get a better idea about the stuff that I do. But yeah, I mean, the Zay fight's huge to me. We already talked about that, but that'll be at the 2300 Arena on Friday. Ice is fighting the next day. If you want to come out to AC, if you guys are AC guys, you know, I could probably get some info for that. But no, look, I just think for me, this was a lot of fun. And, you know, I would love to be able to talk a little bit more maybe about, you know, maybe linking strategies that we could come up with that help people see certain things through. I mean, I just think it's great to be able to, you know, have you guys who have so much experience with this together. And, you know, one of the things I didn't get a chance to really get into with you guys, but I think is really important is I would love to better understand some of the grounding techniques for, say, anxiety. Because when we were talking about anxiety, I get some clients of mine that want to train for, you know, want to train and they hope it helps with anxiety. But I really think it would be amazing to be able to come up with some cool systems that a person could do on their own at home and build those things, because I think those two things work really well together. And I think that that's something that I felt ill-equipped to be able to help people with. But I know enough about it to feel like that's something over time that if a person can take care of here and they can take care of things before it gets too bad, then they may not even have to get on some of the medication that I think sometimes is like overprescribed, because I think there's a feeling that the person won't be able to see the things through on their own that they have to do. So you might as well give them the drugs to treat it. And yeah, that's a feeling of mine right there.
Cool. I'm with it.
So yeah, I'd love to do another one of these, or even if I could just pick your brain, it'd be great.
That's cool. Jay, anything else before we get out of here, good brother?
Just, you know, as usual, we want to thank anybody who takes the time to listen. We appreciate it. Please continue to like, share the videos, leave comments, and of course, you know, send us suggestions. We appreciate it. And as always, you know, remember to prioritize your mental health.
Absolutely. Eric, again, appreciate you coming on, making the time for us, good bro.
My pleasure. Thank you.
All right, Jack.
Later, guys.
All right, later, man. 100.